In addition to using conditional formatting based on cell content, sometimes you might need to use conditional formatting based on a formula. In this particular worksheet, we see that in column F, the 5 performance levels have a special formatting. When I was doing a lot of public seminars, a common question when we came to conditional formatting, is there an easy way to highlight the entire row? For example, let's highlight this entire row when the performance is 5. Well, the answer is not so easy, but yet doable. And it's based on the concept of using a formula instead of choosing one of the many options available here. So let's select the entire set of data here. There's nothing else in column A but employee names, and the same thing for column B with social security numbers and so on. So let's select the entire columns in these cases here. Highlight all the data, go to conditional formatting, and let's manage the existing rule. The existing rule is if the cell value is 5, that's only in column F, then we'll apply this color combination here of a red font and a pink background. Let's edit this rule and use a formula to determine which cells to format. And the formula we're going to use will seem a little strange at first. Equal F1 equal 5. And notice it's an absolute address. What we're about to say by inference is, let's always look in column F to see if that's equal to 5. And instead of $F $1, we want that to read $F1. In other words, we always want to be looking in column F. So if the $ precedes the F, meaning we're always looking in column F. Not always in row 1, though. Right now we're using row 1 because in the highlighted data here, A1 is the active cell. So not so obvious, but equal $F1 equals 5. Let's keep the same format, but when we go to format here, we certainly could explore others if we wish. Let's not do that, but we certainly could. Now, the other change we need to make here, if we click OK, at first you'll say, well, gee, that didn't work yet, did it? We're back in this dialog box. Notice that the prior description was only for column F, so we want to highlight that particular entry and then drag across columns A through H because we want this applied to all the cells. Then click OK, and we see the highlighting in place. Let's make a quick adjustment here. Let's make this be a 4 and see what happens. That entire row 4 highlighting should disappear. Or at a later time, we make that a 5. What's going to happen? The entire row portion here from A through H is going to be highlighted. So we see how that works. Now, off to the right, we've got another set of data. And we could easily calculate the amount of time elapsed between our orders and shipping just by putting in formulas here. But we don't necessarily need to do that. Why don't we highlight all the entries in column L where the shipping date is more than 3 days after the order date? In other words, in your organization, you've decided that that's a standard amount of time. If shipping is taking longer than 3 days after the order, then we've got a potential problem. Now, you could imagine, of course, other data to the left of this describing the order and so on, but just a simple situation here where we want to highlight the cells in column L that are more than 3 days later than the entries in column K. We select column L, go to conditional formatting, new rule. Here too, use a formula to determine which cells to format. And the formula is going to be equal L1, even though L1 itself does not have a date in it. But because it's the current active cell, we use it as a substitute, in effect, for all the other entries in column L. Equal L1 greater than K1 plus 3. In other words, if L1 is more than 3 days later than the entry in column K, we want to apply a format. And we'll just make it a yellow background. Fill. Click OK. And as we click OK, we see the entries in column L. They're only yellow when the shipping date is more than 3 days after the order date. Now, imagine if you set this up, you work with it for a while, you send it to somebody else, another person sees this, maybe knows a little bit about conditional formatting, maybe doesn't. That person might highlight a cell here and say, I want to get rid of that color, maybe all these colors. Can we highlight all these colors here and on the fill bucket from the Home tab here, choose no fill? What's going to happen to our data here? Well, it gets rid of the colors up there. We might want to reconsider that, but it does nothing to the conditional formatting. Let's do an undo and bring back this. First of all, what we might consider doing is highlighting those cells in this worksheet that have conditional formatting. Now, if you're a complete novice with this feature, what we're about to do maybe isn't quite that helpful, but recognize that any time in any worksheet, if you want to know which cells have conditional formatting rules, you can go to the Find and Select button on the Home tab and choose Conditional Formatting. And it highlights all the cells in the worksheet that have conditional formatting. Another option wouldn't be that powerful in this case. If you were to click on a cell and say, I only want to see the cells in this worksheet that have the same conditional formatting as this one, then you can go to Find and Select, Go to Special, and in the Go to Special dialog box, choose Conditional Formats, but then click the button below that says Same. In other words, highlight all the other cells that have the same conditional formatting rule as this one. Click OK, and then we're only going to see highlighting for column L. And it is for the entire column, even though we don't have data below row 16. So you can see various techniques here for using formulas for highlighting cells and also for tracking down those cells that do have conditional formatting rules within the current worksheet.